Risks, warning, and final advice to consider for DACA. The overarching risk created by simply participating in DACA is that, as we've stated and stressed repeatedly, DACA is not a law. There is no guarantee how long this program will be available. And because of this, in the event that DACA is rescinded, what will happen to those who requested DACA after the fact is simply unknown. What I'm saying is, I nor any other immigration legal service provider could guarantee to you that if you submitted an application for DACA, that if in the event DACA was rescinded, that now that immigration knows that you're here, that they won't do anything with that information after the fact. There's just no guarantee of that. We'd like to say that for public policy purposes, it just wouldn't bode well to then place all these individuals in removal proceedings who essentially outed themselves for the sake of not having to worry about being put in removal proceedings. However, I nor any other immigration legal service provider can 100% say that submitting yourself to this program could not have any other consequences down the road. If you're considering DACA and if you've got any arrests in your background, please sit down with a reputable attorney or legal service provider to sort out whether or not you should apply or not. That leads me into the next warning for DACA individuals interested in DACA. Immigration consultants, notarios, less than reputable attorneys, and other scam artists are preying on individuals and their desperation for a path to live above the radar in the U.S. What that means is you're going to run into any number of individuals that will promise you the moon and the stars if you give them X amount of money to fill out this application and submit it. One thing you'll note on the form is very clearly at the bottom of the form it asks that you signed the application, that you are affirming and attesting to all the information on the application being true. And the minute you do that, even if somebody shady helped you fill out your paperwork, you are responsible for your form. You are responsible for your DACA request. And in essence, then you will also be responsible for any consequences that come from the request, especially if you are not eligible for the request. So it's very important that you sit down with somebody that's knowledgeable in the facts to make sure that you are not submitting an application that you are otherwise ineligible for, so that you don't in effect out yourself for no reason. Lastly, it's also important to be aware that DACA is very new. What that means is that USCIS is constantly updating its website on information for the general public. If you have frequently asked questions, if you have a question that's considered a frequently asked question, if you go to www.uscis.gov, scroll through the FAQs, you'll see that it's updated rather frequently because this is so new. That means there's a lot of questions that are coming down the pike through stakeholders and individuals that are interested and are contacting USCIS to say, what about these set of facts? Or how should I approach this question on the form? Go to uscis.gov. That's where you're going to have the most up-to-date and current information on how to address different factors or elements of this application process. Again, this is new. You should proceed with caution when considering DACA. I'm not saying any of this to scare you away from DACA. DACA is an excellent form of providing yourself with an alternative to living above the radar. For many individuals who have not been able to work because they didn't have a social security number, or they're not able to open up a bank account, or they're not able to enter into any binding contracts, this could be the way that you provide for your family. This could be the way that you move from point A to B in your life, whether it be being able to get a driver's license, or just simply being able to work, or just simply being able to hold your head up high and not feel like you have to live in the shadows. So for many individuals, the benefits outweigh the risks. But please be advised, if you're not eligible, don't apply. Just simply don't apply. It's not going to be one of those things where if you're not eligible, if you've got 5 out of 6 of the requirements, that the officer will say, okay, immigrant so-and-so is a good person, we're going to let you in. It doesn't work like that. If you are not otherwise eligible, if you cannot tick yes for all the requirements, don't bother. If you can, you do want to weigh out, what does this mean for me if the administration changes hands and DACA is rescinded? Again, what you must be aware of is no one knows what DACA will look like if the administration changes hands. We don't know if it'll be rescinded. We're assuming it will. And if it's rescinded, we don't know what's going to happen to all those thousands of individuals who will have, by then, submitted their information to USCIS to say, hey, here I am, I'm undocumented. So if you, backtracking a little bit, if you sit down with somebody and they either guarantee you that they can get you an approval of a DACA, or they can guarantee you that this is a path to a green card or a U.S. citizenship, that's something that you should make a quick U-turn and either find advice from a reputable immigration legal source, or if you neither have the money or the resources to sit down with somebody, take the time to understand what's on www.uscis.gov to figure out if you are otherwise eligible for DACA. Some quick words of advice on how to choose an immigration attorney and or a competent legal service provider. First things first, make sure that the person is accredited, either that they are a real attorney or if they are BIA, which is Board of Immigration of Appeals, accredited immigration legal service provider. If that information is just not readily available, ask. Most attorneys have their diplomas hanging in their offices. If they don't, Google the attorney. That's also a quick way to find out if that attorney has any outstanding complaints against them, and or if they have since been disbarred, because you could very well have received a diploma, passed the bar, however you have since been disbarred, but you're still practicing under the premise of being a legal service provider. The only way to really sort that out is to do some investigation. So if that information is not on its face clear, the burden is on you to make sure that you are obtaining legal advice from a credible and reputable attorney. Reputable also includes sorting out if they've got a bad reputation. So if you've got friend A, B, and C telling you so-and-so is no good, don't go to them. Plain and simple. Also, if you've got people telling you go to so-and-so because they know what to do to be able to get an approval, and what to do could mean very well faking and fudging the facts, that's also not somebody that you want to go to, because ultimately if fake or false information is revealed, the burden will all fall on you, not the unscrupulous individual who filled out the application on your behalf. Because at the bottom of every application submitted to USCIS, it asks for your name, it asks for your signature, and you are ultimately responsible for what you submit to USCIS. There are also reputable legal service providers that provide low bono and pro bono services in communities all across the United States. If you're trying to sort out what are those reputable organizations in my area, you can go to two places. You can call up your local jurisdiction and find out what are those legal service providers. You can try your local congressman. Most congressmen have an immigration legal liaison who could very well have a list of local immigration legal service providers. Also, your local immigration court has a list of BIA accredited, again, BIA is Board of Immigration Appeals, accredited legal service providers. Those lists that are provided by the immigration court usually are specific to legal service providers that can help you with pending cases in immigration court. However, those very same lists of legal service providers could have access to other legal service providers that provide low and pro bono immigration legal service. So if you cannot afford an immigration attorney, that does not mean that you should not and cannot have access to competent immigration legal services. You just have to be diligent in finding what are those accredited and or reputable immigration legal service providers in my area.